So that's the first question. The second question are, what are chakras and why are they wrong? Does anybody in here not know what I mean by chakras, first of all? All right. I was going to put a slide on here. I'm in the shower this afternoon getting ready, and my wife hears me yell out loud, and she said, what? She said, all my best ideas come right before a presentation. Forgot to put an image of the chakras on here, but you'll see what they mean in a second. You'll see them going around right now. They're a bracelet that is around the hand usually. And they're the primary colors, which there's nothing wrong with that, RGBIV. But they're the specific pattern that goes from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. They're always in a sphere form. And they can come in different forms. When I was introduced to them as a teenager, the woman that indoctrinated me had them in the form of a necklace. But chakras, that's what you see right now. That's where they're prevalent in culture. You can see these now at Books A Million, at Barnes & Noble. I saw a chakra kids chew toy bracelet, teether for infants at Walmart the other day. I kid you not. That's what I should have put as a photo on here. So they have kids chakra books as well. Well, this is what we're talking about here. These are chakras. I won't read the slides off for you, but chakras, the belief within the Hindu system is that we have what's called around us a prana. And please, if you know that I'm wrong, yell at me. We have a prana, which is an energy field. It's also known as the subtle body. It's believed that this energy field is us. It is our essence. It is our individual self. And so with that prana, it's sealed off before we start to become aware of our divine spark. And so there are 7 ports we have connected to our energy field. In sci-fi terms, there's 7 access ports, 7 data entry ports. There's 7 floodgates or plugs into the soul. And they start off closed or locked. Our job is to unlock those ports so that the energies can flow in and out of them. And when I revisited this after having converted, that was the first thing that concerned me, especially working with priests. The instant you have someone asking you to unlock or give you access to your energy field or to your soul or to your essence, you need to run for the hills. Because in Catholic terms, that's being asked to give access to your grace, to be access, consent of will to your spirit. In the case of Hinduism, the idea is that these 7 different chakras each correspond to a different part of the body. They're all along the spine, all right, which is why it's important within yoga to align the spine. And so you work on each one at a time. You close one, you open one. You open one, you close one. Just like we might work on the different virtues at a given time. We might work on temperance or chastity or fortitude or temperance or even any of the sub-virtues. The same would happen with chakras. You would open or close one based upon what you needed. But the point is that you're trying to tune all of these. You're trying to get them all in proper alignment with the proper amount of energy and the proper amount of flow so that you can connect with Brahman, which is called the world soul. It's an impersonal consciousness. And I will read this slide to you, just exit from you, just so you can see. This isn't conjecture from Christian websites or Catholic websites or interpretation. The Rig Veda is part of the Vedas. If you're not familiar with the Vedas are the primary sacred scripture of the Hindu belief system. The Rig Veda is the 4th and final Veda system. It's the 4th set of scriptures. So we might put this akin to Paul's letters in the general epistles. It's the very end of it, but it's also kind of like the Revelations mixed in as well. It's the poetic books as well. There's a prophecy as well. And so, quote, allied with you in your friendship, celestial immortality, the inner controller of the senses, Indra, made the waters flow for mortals, killed the dormant serpent, and sent forth the 7 oceans, and opened, as it were, obstructed fountains. So something to note here, if that's a bit obscure for you. Hindu scripture and poetry is even more metaphorical than ours is. It's even harder to decipher if you're uninitiated with Revelations. than our own scripture is. The most important thing to pay attention to is numbers. And so it doesn't matter that it's oceans and that it's fountains. Because of the number 7, we are in fact referring only to the chakras, their access ports and their energies. So the 7 oceans are meant to be the 7 chakras. And so by using the 7 spears to kill them, you're puncturing them open. You're breaking the seal on them so that energy can flow in and out.
Hey Zach, very quick question. You're talking about the, Roji Brib. That's the color spectrum.
Yes.
Do you know how long they've gone back and used that? Because that was, sorry.
No, you're good. Good. Go ahead.
So that was that device or whatever was developed by Isaac Newton in the mid-1700s. So that's not a 500 BC.
No, it's not.
500-year-old concept.
No, the Roji Bib is not.
Is that placed on it later?
It's placed on it. Well, the colors, and this is a case where we have with numbers and as well. I'm by no means saying that Roji Bib was created, the spectrum was created by the Hindu system, anything of the sort.
Even them using it, they couldn't have used it till the 1700s
I'm not familiar with this. Again, This is the New Age application. I'm not familiar with when colors entered the system. Yeah. But the issue here is that the colors are being used now to attract Westerners. So mine is its current packaging, because even if we go back to 500 BC with the Hindus, most of practicing Hindus, whether they're Westerners or whether they're Easterners, what I would call more authentic Hindu practitioners, they only go back, interestingly enough, as far as the Protestant Revolution and slightly before. So the most recent Hindu systems aren't that much older than most of our Christian schisms and splits.
Something I noticed when I was doing Civil War reenactment, there was one reenactor who was saying he was Hindu, and it seems that that Hinduism or a Hindu group started coming about in the 1800s, about the time before the Civil War, something or other.
You're right. Well, we've had several iterations since then as well. Something I'll get to in a little bit, but we had even another iteration within the last century. Most people aren't aware, but within World Wars I and II, this isn't conspiracy or the back corners of the internet, but most of the nuclear physicists, string theory engineers within World War I and II were professed in Hinduism, especially its practices, actually using the formulas and the structures of Vedic teachings, and Vedic teachings meaning anything from the Vedas. That's like to say if we keep something biblical, they would keep it Vedic. In which case, even with the atomic bomb, and I think of the famous words of Oppenheimer, "Behold, I am Vishnu, death, destroyer of worlds." That was Oppenheimer's words at the time of the atomic bomb being released. So these chakras are aligned to locations in the spinal column, like I said, and have 7 devas or gods attached to them. Again, from the Vedas. The 7 gods have 7 spears and 7 lights. They hold 7 glories. So the chakras are used to make, like I said, the individual soul, the Atman, unite with Brahman. So the whole goal, and again, you can get down to variation on the name of the words, the name of the deities, even which deity you choose, but the end goal within Hinduism is always the same. You have a subtle field, you have an energy field, which is unique to you. You have the ports by which to cause the energy fields to flow. And your job is to dissolve all of that eventually into the world soul here being the universal soul that's called Brahman. If anyone says otherwise, that is incorrect. It is the dissolution of self. It is, others have, of course, labeled it by nirvana. It's a permanent break from reincarnation. So as a small side point that I did not include in this presentation, could be a presentation in and of itself, but whereas most of our fallen away brothers and sisters that have gone over to Hindu practices regarded as this godless, equal system, Hinduism ultimately is an upper class and a lower class. And the lower class is constantly bound to relive their life over and over and over and over and over again at the lower class. It's only the higher class that gets to eventually dissolve itself. Or even some suggestions in the Hindu system that the lower class's soul eventually just disintegrates. It doesn't even dissolve into the world soul. It eventually, after 100,000 lives, just wears out. So tell me how that's egalitarian. Quote from a story, and pardon me the length on this one, but just to demonstrate again from their own scriptures, a famous parable from the Rig Veda as well. A son talking to his father, asking him how this Atman uniting with the Brahman works. He said, place the salt in water and then wait on me in the morning. The son did as he was commanded. The father said to him, bring me the salt which you placed in the water last night. The son, having looked for it, did not find it because it was dissolved. The father said, take a sip from the surface water. How is it? And the son replied, it is salt. The father said, set it aside, then come back to me. He did so, saying, it is always the same. Then the father said, here also in this body, although you do not perceive being here, nevertheless it is there. That which is the finest essence, this whole world has that for its soul. That is reality. That is Atman, the soul. And excuse me, this one was from the Upanishads, not from the Vedas. But you see, the point is, we've had nirvana used to explain it, literally in the original language, the taking of your fingers and snuffing the wick of a candle so that the flame goes out, to having the salt placed in the water and dissolving and losing its definition. The best defense I can hear of this in any remote form that's not depressing is that the salt's properties are still in the water, and therefore it is in a way there. But my answer is it's not salt. It's now salt water. It's mingled with the water. It's lost its personality. So at best, our parts of our soul are mingled with the parts of everyone else's soul in all of the universe. All right, so the most disturbing part of this that kind of led me away from chakras and the practice of them years ago, thank goodness the Southern Baptist was still in me, and the stressing of the symbol of a serpent was still strong back then when I was a Southern Baptist. Beware of serpents. It was the Kundalini awakening. So you start with the root chakra, and you work through a process, and it could theoretically be linear. You could work on the root chakra, get it done, work on the next chakra, get it done, and work all the way up. But it's usually back and forth, like we would work on our virtues, right, and work on our holiness. But regardless, the point is eventually you get to the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, which actually isn't on the body but exists above the head, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But once all of your chakras are aligned, an energy sphere is supposed to form around your entire body in the form of a serpent that locks and weaves in and out of each one of these chakras. It's worth watching you jump just a little bit. All right. And so, of course, and this serpent is known as the Kundalini. So we're in any other culture, any other mythology, not just Christianity or Judaism, but plenty of other religions, the serpent is warned about. The serpent is, and you could say it's an objective, a subjective image. It could have been anything else. I'd say no. I mean, I very rarely come across coincidental or incidental images or shapes or forms used in mythology. While there's some variation, an animal in one mythology is pretty much the representation, or at least the direct opposite, in another mythology. So that there's a serpent here. Instead of killing or crushing the serpent like we have within Christianity, we have the awakening of the serpent. And again, from their scriptures, the Kundalini is biting with the upper end of its mouth at the root of the lotus, the Mulakanda, the chakra that's at the end of the spine. You'll see that spelled differently later. Again, there's a few variations on the translation. Taking hold of its tail with its mouth, it is in contact with the hole with the top of the head. All right, so it weaves both ways. So I don't know about you, this doesn't sound particularly pleasant to me. I have a subtle field. Let me give you access to it. The rivers flow out of it. Then I'm supposed to willingly commit to lining them up so that a field serpent can warp all the way through my body. Now, to be fair, I'm sure they could say some things about Christianity sound weird. But even within Christianity, when we talk about death to self, it is straightforward, it is honest, and it's actually about becoming more of what God meant us to be. There is a person that Zach Summers is meant to be, and he is not doing it to his best. Christianity's end goal is for Zach Summers to be Saint Zach Summers, not for Zach Summers to lose himself and unspiral into the universe. So Hinduism, even without the names or the words of the practices, even from a very lay perspective of just understanding fields and chakras, its end goal is destructive. Its end goal is the killing of an identity. Its end goal is the killing of an individual. At best, bits and pieces are spaghetti souped all the way through the universe, but that person dies, not just physically, but spiritually for all of eternity. Where is the respect for this? And it isn't helped but notice that with such a destructive belief system that is being adopted by Westerners in the New Age practice, we also have correlated with that an increase in abortion and in pro-death practices. What's the point in having a child go from conception and birth all the way through death if their divine spark can just be terminated early and they still get the same end results? They just recycle back through the system. Yes, that's opinion on my part, but it's strong opinion. Skipping this further just describes the process. All right, so why are they wrong? I use the catechism here in plain, simple definitions. Plenty of our Protestant brothers and sisters will cite more scripture, even though I have within this presentation. There are plenty that I recommend if you're interested. They're doing a fine job on the Protestant front confronting this. But clear and simple, because it's idolatrous, because it's atheistic, and because it's occultist. It's idolatrous because it's worshiping a creature instead of God. And some are confused by the language of creature. Creature is not just you or I, or a cow, or anything living. A creature in strict theological terms is anything created. This chair is a creature, that column is a creature. So therefore, the worshiping of chakras all the way to the worshiping of false gods to any practice that tries to get in the way of God is idolatrous. From the Catechism, we have the first commandment condemns polytheism. It requires man neither to believe in nor to venerate other divinities than the one true God. Idolatry not only refers to false pagan worship, it remains a constant temptation to faith. So even within the Catechism, they recognize that we have those that are tempted by this struggle. Idolatry consists in divinizing what is God. I would say taking chakras that are meant to unite you with the universe means you've divinized the universe. So the biggest problem, the reason why Hinduism is idolatrous, is it has divinized the universe. And the universe is a creature like anything else in the universe. Its biggest way it gets away with that is because it's so vague and open-ended instead of one creature that we're focused on. It's atheistic, meaning by the Catechism's definition, it replaces a personal God with an impersonal universe. Again, sets it up. Atheism is not necessarily the denial of any God, but it's the denial of the one true God. It's occultist because it relies on means other than God's grace to achieve happiness. So you could theoretically be theistic, you could technically be non-idolatrous, but you could still never get past the fact of being occultist. You are trying to rely on chakras, which are most definitely not God's grace, to be able to achieve happiness. And as you would see in this catechism, they specifically address, well, I may have cut it out of this slide, but they mention by name charms. So chakras are charms.